Ladies, I know the feeling. The weight of a broken heart, the emptiness that echoes through your soul. But today, I'm here to tell you something important. Healing is not a destination, it's a journey you must walk head held high and empowered. In the moments of pain, when the world feels like it's crashing down, remember this: you are stronger than this, and you are worthy of more. Right now, it may feel like everything is lost. But trust me, a heartbreak is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. So let's break it down step by step and get you from heartbroken to whole again. It's often said that the first step to healing is acknowledging the pain. But let me ask you this: how many times have you been told to move on or get over it? As if there's a timeline to grief. As if you could just snap your fingers and erase the hurt that is eating away at you. I'm here to tell you that pain doesn't work that way. And if you want to heal properly, the first thing you need to do is own the pain. You see, we live in a world that often demands us to suppress our emotions. Society tells us to smile through the hurt, to act like everything's fine when it's not. We see people go through breakups, heartbreaks, failures, and losses, and yet the standard reaction is to look like nothing happened. But I'm here to tell you that's not strength. It's denial. Real strength comes when you allow yourself to sit in the discomfort of the pain. To look it straight in the eye and say, I see you, and I will heal from you. When you face the pain, you begin the process of reclaiming your power. Think about it. If you've ever been hurt deeply by someone, whether through a relationship, a betrayal, or a loss, the first reaction is often one of shock and denial. You're caught off guard. You didn't see it coming. And as the pain floods in, you feel like the ground beneath you is shaking. That's the moment when many people try to run from the pain. They try to keep themselves busy, distract themselves with meaningless things, and act like everything is okay. But here's the truth: pain is not something to be avoided. It's something to be understood, embraced, and ultimately released. It's your opportunity to process your emotions, to learn what your heart needs, and to grow stronger. When you own the pain, you stop running from it. Instead, you face it head on. You acknowledge the hurt, the anger, the disappointment, and the sadness. And in doing that, you take away its power over you. Imagine the pain is like a storm. You can run from the storm, but it will always find you. The storm may change direction. It may even seem less intense at times, but it's always there, lingering in the background. But if you stand still and face the storm, you start to notice something incredible. You are stronger than the storm itself. The wind may be fierce, the rain may sting, but the longer you stand, the more you realize that you can endure it. You don't need to run anymore. In daily life, people often try to push through pain as if ignoring it will make it go away. I've seen so many individuals who experience a breakup and dive straight into another relationship, hoping that a new person can erase the memory of the old one. But what happens? The old pain never truly goes away. It just gets buried beneath the surface, waiting for the next trigger to bring it all back up. That's not healing. Healing happens when you stop masking the pain and give yourself permission to feel every single emotion. It's when you give yourself permission to grieve, to scream, to cry, to feel the hurt raw and real. Consider the example of a woman who, after years of giving her heart and soul to a partner, suddenly finds herself alone. She could choose to keep herself busy, to dive into work, to surround herself with distractions, to fill the emptiness with superficial fixes. But let me tell you something: if you do that, the healing will never truly come. You may feel okay for a while, but deep down, the pain will still linger. But imagine if instead she chooses to sit with the pain. She takes the time to cry, to let the tears fall freely, to reflect on the memories, the love, the moments of joy, and the heartbreak. She acknowledges the full spectrum of what she's feeling. In that moment of raw vulnerability, she is not weak. She is reclaiming her power. You see, facing the pain and sitting with it doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger. It's like working out at the gym. You can't build muscle if you don't challenge your body. Pain is the emotional workout that builds your emotional resilience. You will feel sore. You will feel exhausted. And you may even feel like giving up. But as you push through, your emotional muscle will grow stronger. And one day, you look back and realize that the pain you once thought would break you has instead made you unbreakable. And here's the beautiful part. Once you own the pain, it no longer owns you. You stop being a prisoner to it. You stop letting it dictate your mood, your thoughts, your future. Pain becomes just another chapter in your story, but not the entire narrative. It becomes the fuel that propels you forward, the lesson that strengthens your resolve. I want you to understand something. This is not about wallowing in your hurt. This is not about staying in the pain indefinitely. This is about allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel so that you can let go of what no longer serves you. When you try to mask the pain, you deny yourself the opportunity to heal fully. When you own the pain, you give yourself the space to let it go, to move on, to rise above it. I've seen people transform their lives simply by giving themselves permission to feel, to own their heartbreak, their disappointment, their failure. They didn't hide from it. They faced it. They walked through it, not around it. And in doing so, they came out on the other side stronger, wiser, and ready for what's next. Healing is not linear, and it's certainly not easy. But if you want to get to the other side, if you want to experience the freedom of emotional release, you must own the pain, embrace it, learn from it, and let it make you stronger. You are not broken because of the pain. You are being shaped into the powerful, unstoppable force you are meant to be. In the aftermath of a breakup, one of the most crucial steps in your healing process is to give yourself space. Space, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. When a relationship ends, the last thing you need is to keep dragging the remnants of that connection around like a heavy, suffocating cloak. In our modern world, we have been taught to constantly be on, to stay connected, to be available, to respond quickly, to keep going. But let me tell you, healing requires you to break free from the noise. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself checking your phone every few minutes, hoping for a message from that person, even though you know deep down that it will only hurt you? That's not space. That's a trap. You see, when we are hurt, it's easy to cling to what was familiar, to what felt comfortable, even though it's no longer good for us. But the truth is, you cannot heal if you're constantly surrounded by the things and people that hurt you. But there's something incredibly powerful about stepping back and allowing yourself the space to breathe, space to rediscover who you are without the constant influence of someone else. Space to remember the things you love doing, the things that bring you joy and fulfillment outside of your relationship. Space to sit with your emotions without them being interrupted or distracted by the presence of someone else. Think about it. When you're in the thick of a relationship, how often do you put your needs and desires on the back burner to please the other person? How often do you lose sight of your own goals, your own dreams, simply because you're focused on being there for someone else? You're not selfish for needing space. You're reclaiming your right to show up for yourself, to nurture yourself in the way that you deserve. If you're constantly tied to the past, you can't move forward. Imagine trying to run a race while someone is holding on to your ankle, weighing you down. That's what it feels like when you don't give yourself space after a breakup. You're still tethered to something that doesn't serve you. I want you to picture this. You're standing in a garden. There are beautiful flowers all around you, but they're all crowded together, competing for sunlight. The flowers don't have enough space to grow, to blossom, to truly be their full selves. Now imagine what would happen if you gave them the room to breathe. The flowers would flourish, their colors would pop, their fragrance would fill the air, they would become their fullest potential. This is how you need to treat your emotional space. When you give yourself space, you allow yourself the freedom to rediscover what makes you whole. You let go of the noise, the constant reminders of the relationship, the feeling of missing them. the temptation to fall back into old patterns that no longer serve you. You make room for yourself to grow. This is not just about physical space, like unfriending them on social media or taking time away from places you used to frequent together. This is about creating emotional distance so that you can finally hear your own thoughts, understand your own feelings, and reconnect with your sense of purpose. I've seen so many people who stay stuck in the past because they refuse to give themselves space. They stay in contact with their exes, continue to hang out in the same social circles, or even rehash old conversations in their minds, playing the what if game over and over again. But here's the thing, the past is already gone. It's like trying to drive forward while looking in the rearview mirror. How can you move forward if you're constantly obsessed with what was? Space allows you to shift your focus back onto the present moment. A moment where you can begin healing and building a future without the weight of the past. Consider the example of someone who has recently gone through a breakup. Every day they check their ex's social media profiles. They read old text messages, and they ruminate over every word, every look, every gesture that happened during the relationship. But all of that keeps them stuck in a cycle of pain. They're constantly looking back at the wreckage, wondering what went wrong, trying to piece together a puzzle that will never fit again. But imagine that person decides for once to truly take space. They unfollow their ex on social media. They stop reading old messages. They stop seeking closure from someone who is no longer a part of their life. They go out and do something they've always wanted to do, whether it's taking a solo trip, signing up for a class, or spending time with friends who lift them up. Suddenly, they're no longer dragging the weight of the past with them. They've given themselves the space to breathe, to heal, to rediscover who they truly are outside of the relationship. Giving yourself space also means setting boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are protections. They are your way of telling the world, I deserve to be in spaces where I feel safe, respected, and loved. In the context of a breakup, this may mean no contact with your ex for a period of time. This may mean not entertaining conversations that bring you back to painful memories. Boundaries allow you to create the emotional space necessary for your healing. This is where the real transformation happens. The moment you give yourself space, you reclaim your power. You stop being defined by the relationship and begin defining yourself. You stop letting the remnants of the past control your present and future. You allow yourself to take the time you need to process your emotions, to rediscover your identity, and to heal without interference. In this space, you find the clarity that was lost during the chaos of the breakup. You realize that you are a complete person on your own, that you are worthy of a love that nurtures you, that challenges you to be the best version of yourself. And once you've given yourself that space, you'll come out of it not only healed, but stronger, wiser, and more in touch with your true essence. There comes a time after a breakup when the world seems to collapse around you. You're left staring at your reflection, wondering where you went wrong, questioning your worth, and feeling like a piece of you has been ripped away. But here's the truth: your worth was never defined by that relationship. Your value is not something that can be taken away by someone else's actions or opinions. It is intrinsic, embedded in who you are, your strength, your resilience, and the beautiful, unique essence that makes you, you. And when you're heartbroken, it's easy to start thinking that maybe you weren't enough. You may question your attractiveness, your abilities, your capacity to love, or your desirability. And let's be real, how often have we heard someone say, maybe I wasn't good enough for them? But let me tell you something. You were always enough. You are more than enough. You were worthy of love, respect, and happiness even before that relationship ever began. Your worth isn't something that can be diminished by someone else's inability to see it. Take a moment and think about this. How many times in life have we placed our worth in the hands of others? Whether it's the opinions of our partners, our friends, our families, or society. We often allow external validation to dictate how we feel about ourselves. We let the world define our worth. But I'm here to tell you, it's time to take that power back. Now, imagine this. You're walking into a room full of people, and everyone's talking about their recent achievements, their latest relationships, their new purchases, and their social media following. At first, you feel a twinge of insecurity. You begin comparing yourself to them. Maybe they have what you want: the perfect job, the perfect relationship, the perfect life. You start wondering if you'll ever measure up. But then, in that very moment, you realize something. You don't need to measure up to anyone but yourself. This is a crucial moment in your journey of self-healing. You have to stop comparing yourself to others. In fact, you have to stop comparing your pain, your progress, your healing journey to anyone else's. You see, we all walk different paths, and no two journeys are the same. But when you choose to define your worth based on your own standards, not someone else's, you regain your power. Redefining your worth means understanding that you are a work in progress. But that progress doesn't diminish your value. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love, success, or happiness. In fact, your imperfections, your scars, your vulnerabilities, they are what make you uniquely beautiful. We often get caught up in this idea of perfection, thinking that we need to fit some mold or expectation. But perfection is an illusion. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be real. Let's take a moment to think about the famous example of J.K. Rowling. She was once a single mother living on welfare, struggling to make ends meet. Her book, Harry Potter, was rejected by numerous publishers. Imagine what would have happened if she had allowed those rejections, that failure, to define her worth. She could have let the opinions of others limit her. But instead, she chose to redefine her value. She knew she had something unique to offer the world, and she kept going, even when it felt like everything was stacked against her. Today, she's one of the most successful authors in the world, all because she believed in her own worth despite the setbacks and challenges. You see, redefining your worth means learning to see yourself through a different lens. Instead of focusing on the past, the heartbreak, the failures, and the mistakes, it means recognizing your strengths, your growth, and the lessons you've learned. You don't need to let a failed relationship or a setback define who you are. In fact, those moments of pain and loss have shaped you into a stronger, wiser version of yourself. Think about someone who's just gone through a breakup. In the aftermath, they might feel like their world is falling apart. They feel abandoned, worthless, and inadequate. But as time passes, they start to realize something incredible. They are still standing. The relationship may have ended, but they are still here, still breathing, still moving forward. And in that realization, they begin to see that they have the power to rewrite their own narrative. They begin to recognize their own worth, independent of the person they were with. This is the beauty of redefining your worth. It's not about being immune to pain or pretending like everything is okay when it's not. It's about choosing to rise from the ashes of your heartbreak and seeing the opportunity for growth, self-love, and empowerment. You start to recognize that your value isn't tied to someone else's approval. It's tied to your own inner strength and the love you give yourself. The truth is, the world will try to tell you who you are, what you should be, and what you're worth. But only you can define your worth. No one else has that power. No one else has the right to determine your value. The only person who gets to decide your worth is you. And once you realize that, there is nothing that can stop you. When you redefine your worth, you stop chasing after things that no longer serve you. You stop seeking validation from people who don't value you. You stop settling for relationships that don't honor your true self. You become unapologetic about who you are, what you deserve, and what you're willing to accept. The process of redefining your worth is not easy. It's not about quick fixes or overnight changes. But with each day, with each small step, you start to rebuild your sense of self. You reclaim your confidence, your power, and your ability to love yourself fully. And when you learn to love yourself in this way, That is when the world will begin to reflect that love back to you. After a breakup, many people feel like they've lost not just a partner, but a part of themselves. In the midst of heartbreak, it's easy to forget what makes us tick, what brings us joy, and what lights up our soul. But here's the secret, the key to moving forward, to healing, and to finding yourself again, is rediscovering your passions. You may have neglected them during the relationship, or perhaps you forgot what it felt like to truly love something outside of the person you were with. But now is the time to reconnect with what sets your heart on fire. Think about it, what made you come alive before that relationship? Was it painting, writing, running, traveling, music? Maybe you were someone who loved to dance, who thrived in nature, or who found peace in cooking or creating art. But somewhere along the way, those passions became secondary. You put them on the back burner, convinced that love, a relationship, or someone else could fill the space. But the truth is, the things that light up your soul were always meant to be a part of your journey. They were never meant to be sacrificed for the sake of someone else. I want you to picture a person who's gone through a tough breakup. They're hurt, confused, and unsure of what to do next. But one day, they pick up an old instrument they used to play, a guitar perhaps. The moment their fingers touch the strings, something shifts within them. They realize that this is what they were always meant to do. Music was their outlet, their way of expressing themselves, and they had lost sight of it in the whirlwind of their relationship. Now, they've rediscovered that part of themselves, and the world seems a little bit brighter, a little bit more hopeful. This is the power of rediscovering your passions. When you reconnect with the things you once loved, you start to heal. You start to find joy in the small things again. You start to remember that life is about more than just surviving the heart edge. It's about thriving, growing, and embracing the things that make you feel alive. Your passions are your purpose. Your purpose is your healing. Here's another example. Imagine a woman who's always had a passion for photography. When she was in the relationship, she didn't have time for it anymore. She put her camera down, believing that she didn't have space for a hobby while being in a relationship. But once she's out of that relationship, she picks up the camera again, and she's amazed at the world that opens up to her. She begins to see beauty in everything, the way sunlight filters through trees, the expressions of strangers, the quiet moments of life that most people overlook. Photography becomes her therapy. Through it, she rediscovers herself, reconnects with the world, and starts to build a future she never even imagined was possible. This is not just about picking up a hobby or engaging in a pastime. It's about reclaiming parts of yourself that you thought were lost forever. It's about remembering who you were before you were involved in the relationship and realizing that you still have that person within you. The passions that once ignited your soul never left. They were simply waiting for you to return to them. You see, when we invest so much of our energy into someone else, we often forget to invest in ourselves. We neglect our dreams, our hobbies, and our sense of identity. But rediscovering your passions is like waking up from a long sleep. It's like peeling back the layers of doubt and fear and finding the person you were always meant to be. Your passions don't just make you happy. They help you rediscover your strength, your purpose, and your value. Imagine you're a writer who hasn't written a single word in months. After a breakup, you feel empty, like your inspiration has vanished. But one day, you decide to pick up your notebook just for the sake of it. You start writing, even if it's just random thoughts. And then suddenly the words start flowing again. You realize that writing isn't just a hobby for you. It's a way of breathing, of processing life, of finding meaning. It was always a part of who you were. And now it's helping you heal. I've seen this transformation in so many people. People who rediscover their love for fitness, for painting, for creating something with their hands, or even for starting a business they once dreamed of. They remember that life doesn't stop when a relationship ends. In fact, it's often the perfect time to start fresh, to reconnect with the things that made them feel alive before anyone else came into the picture. When you rediscover your passion, something shifts within you. You stop looking outside yourself for validation, for fulfillment. Instead, you start to realize that everything you need to feel whole, to feel complete, is already inside you. Your passions are the doorway to that realization. They're the bridge that takes you from pain to healing, from confusion to clarity, and from heartache to hope. Take a moment right now and think about what you've put aside for far too long. Maybe it's a dream you've always had, but never had the courage to pursue. Maybe it's a skill you've always wanted to master, but felt you didn't have the time for. Maybe it's a hobby that once brought you so much joy, but you let it slip away in the hustle and bustle of life. Now picture yourself walking into a room where that passion lives. Imagine yourself fully immersed in it, feeling the joy, the excitement, the peace that comes with doing something you love. That's the feeling that awaits you when you allow yourself to rediscover your passions. It's the moment when you realize that the world is full of opportunities, and they're all waiting for you to claim them. You are more than your past relationship. You are more than the heartache, the pain, or the disappointment. You are someone with passions, dreams, and a purpose that is uniquely yours. It's time to embrace those passions, to give them the space they need to grow, and to let them lead you back to yourself. You're not just healing, you're blossoming into a new version of yourself. One that is stronger, wiser, and more in tune with who you are meant to be. The void left behind by a breakup can feel all-consuming. It's like an endless gaping space that you just want to fill fast. You may think that if you can just distract yourself or fill that emptiness with something, anything, it will stop hurting. You may look for quick fixes, whether it's jumping into another relationship, surrounding yourself with people constantly, or burying yourself in work. But here's the truth. Rushing to fill the void is the very thing that keeps you from healing. Healing isn't about filling the emptiness with distractions or temporary fixes. It's about sitting with the pain and allowing it to teach you, to shape you, and ultimately to set you free. In our society, we're often told to keep moving, to keep busy, to avoid pain at all costs. But what if the most powerful thing you could do right now is to do nothing? What if the space, the void, is exactly what you need? It's in that space that growth happens. It's in that space where you learn to reconnect with yourself, to reflect, and to find new parts of who you are. When you rush to fill the void, you miss out on the opportunity to fully understand the lessons the breakup is trying to teach you. Take the example of a woman who has just gone through a painful breakup. She feels the weight of loneliness and loss pressing down on her. She could fill the emptiness with anything. Maybe she starts dating someone else too soon. Maybe she buries herself in her job. Or perhaps she spends hours scrolling through social media to find something, anything, that can take away the discomfort. But after a while, she realizes that these distractions don't truly heal her. They just mask the pain. The hurt is still there underneath the surface, waiting for her to face it. So what happens if she chooses not to rush? What if instead of trying to fill the void, she allows herself to sit with it? What if she takes a moment to breathe, to think, to reflect? Over time, she finds that the void isn't as scary as she thought. In fact, it becomes a sacred space where she can learn more about herself than she ever knew before. It's here that she can reconnect with her true desires, her ambitions, her dreams. The parts of her that may have been neglected in the relationship. When she chooses to not rush to fill that space, she begins to realize that she was always whole. The breakup didn't break her. It revealed the parts of her that were waiting to be rediscovered. But society doesn't always encourage this kind of reflection. It's so easy to get caught up in the pressure to move on. We see other people jumping into relationships or getting over it, and we feel like we should do the same. But healing is not a race. It's not about who can recover the fastest or who can appear the least affected. Healing is personal. It's about allowing yourself the time and space to grieve, to process and to come out stronger on the other side. So take your time. Don't rush. Let the void teach you. Let it guide you. And let it help you rediscover the person you were always meant to be. You don't need to fill it with distractions. You just need to fill it with love for yourself.